Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're here with us, you're looking for more than just the surface level stuff. You're looking for the shortcut to real insight.
Yeah.
And today we are going deep. We're going to try and tear down the wall between what you can see and, well, what you can't, to explore what we're calling the invisible architects of reality.
That's a great way to put it. We're going to jump right past all the popular self-help talk and get straight into what is essentially the operational manual for the universe.
Okay, so what does that mean exactly?
It means we're going to be looking at the meta-secret. We're synthesizing some really profound, often hidden knowledge that comes from ancient Hermetic wisdom. It's a way of understanding the principles that operate underneath everything.
So this isn't just about, say, the law of attraction.
No, not at all. That's a part of it, but it's a small part. The law of attraction is empowered by these deeper principles.
We have a really fascinating set of sources for this one. It's a blend of, this deep metaphysical research on one hand, and on the other, this incredibly personal life or death journey of someone who had to find these principles just to survive.
And that makes our mission for this deep dive really clear. We are going to unpack the 7 Hermetic laws. These are the laws that, according to this wisdom, govern everything you experience.
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
From your thoughts to your bank account. And we'll use that extraordinary personal story as our guide. It'll show you why understanding these laws is really the key to moving past whatever struggles you're facing.
So it's a roadmap.
It is. It's the roadmap to unlocking your potential and aligning your inner world with what you want to see in the outer world. It's about lasting success, not just, getting lucky once in a while.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're talking about the fundamental architecture of reality. I guess we have to start by defining what we're even studying here. The term is metaphysical?
Right, and that word sounds so, esoteric and complicated.
It does. It sounds like something from a dusty old book.
But the definition we have in our notes is actually incredibly simple. It comes from an interview on Fox and Friends, of all places, back in 2009. Dr. Mel Gill was on, and they asked him to define his doctorate in metaphysical science.
And his answer?
He just said, it's the study of the invisible.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay, well, when you put it that way, when you start with that simple idea, the study of the invisible, the reason most people get stuck in life becomes almost immediately obvious.
Absolutely. Think about where we put our focus. The average person spends, 99% of their time and energy on the physical world.
Sure. Your job, your house, your bills, your body, all the things you can see and touch.
Exactly. We measure everything. But we completely neglect the metaphysical realm, the invisible. And the paradox is, that's where all the real power is. That's where the true magic resides.
It's like you're only looking at the symptoms and totally ignoring the cause.
Yes. There's a great analogy in the source material for this. Trying to change your outer circumstances without changing your inner self. It's like trying to put makeup on your reflection in the mirror.
Or shave the reflection.
Right. It's completely futile, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The reflection is just an effect. The cause is you. You have to work on yourself, not the mirror.
Joe Vitale had a great quote on this. The way out is to go in.
Perfect. We're all trained from birth to deal with the physical. But these teachings tell us that any lasting change is an inside job. You can't master the external until you've mastered the internal.
And this shift in thinking from the physical to the internal, for the author of this material, it wasn't some academic thought experiment. It was forced on him by this horrifying, life-altering event.
A true pivot point. It literally forced him into that invisible realm.
Let's get into that story because it's pretty intense.
It is. The date was December 19th, 1976. And the setting is the deep, really unforgiving Malaysian jungle.
So he's trekking through the mountains.
He is. Just a young man at the time.
Yeah.
And he loses his footing. He's flung violently, and he lands on the stone floor of a deep grotto.
And the result is bad.
Instantaneous and catastrophic, severe, complex, compound fractures in his left arm. The bone is sticking out. It's a nightmare scenario.
And you're in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly. The situation goes from bad to just exponentially worse. He spends the next 10 days, 10 agonizing days, trying to hike his way out of this dense jungle just to find help.
10 days with that kind of injury.
By the time he finally reaches a hospital, the trauma, the jungle environment, massive gas gangrene infections that just consume the entire limb. The surgeon knew they had to amputate and was pretty sure he was already too late to save his life.
And this is the moment, right? This is where the study of the invisible really begins for him.
This is it. He's heavily sedated. He's delirious with a high fever, but the trauma triggers this moment of acute dual perception, the near-death experience.
Can you try and describe that? I mean, that feeling of dual perception, it sounds both terrifying and maybe illuminating.
It's described as suddenly being outside of your physical body, but you're still connected to it. It's bizarre.
So one part of his consciousness could still feel the physical pain.
Yes, he could even feel the vibration of the surgical saw as it started to cut into the bone of his arm.
Oh, wow.
But at the exact same time, the other half of his awareness was detached. He was observing. He was looking down at his own body lying there, incoherent, on the operating table.
And then the separation becomes total.
It does. His mind starts processing multiple realities at once. He's seeing his body, but then he's also seeing his family, totally distressed, in the waiting room, miles away. He's overhearing conversations. And then the clinical moment. A voice announces,
"Time of death, 4:15 a.m.
He was gone. He describes being pulled backwards, fast, by this great sucking vortex, right through the ceiling of the hospital and into this brilliant light.
The classic tunnel of light.
A luminous, white, multi-hued tunnel, yeah.
Yeah.
And the destination was, well, extraordinary. He encounters a being made of shimmering blue-violet light.
And the feeling from this being is the crucial part, isn't it?
It's everything. It wasn't scary. It was a feeling of total love and benevolence, pure happiness, and this really intense, profound emotion of being unequivocally home.
Like he'd finally returned to where he belonged.
Exactly. And what felt like days were spent in what he called a realm of masters. He's in these amphitheater-like classes, but it wasn't learning like we think of it. It was like wisdom and universal knowledge were just being downloaded directly into him.
So not reading books, but just knowing.
Instant experiential knowing. But the journey had a time limit. The being gently told him that even though he was begging to stay, his time wasn't up. He had to go back.
And this entire experience, which felt like days to him in our time, it was just 19 minutes.
19 minutes. And his return was triggered by the surgeon. The surgeon saw what he later described as this strange ball of light near the patient's body.
And it spurred him into action.
It did. A final, desperate effort. He grabs a long, hollow needle, jabs it into the ankle for a quick blood infusion, and starts compressions to try and force the heart back into rhythm.
And just like that,
He's violently yanked back into the pain, back into the confines of his body. And all that profound, detailed wisdom he'd learned, it just faded, like a dream you can't quite hold on to.
but something remained.
An instinctive knowing. He knew, without a doubt, that the universe operates by a set of rules, and he now had to spend his life finding them.
And this experience, this NDE, it actually left him with a physical clue, a starting point for his search.
It did. When he finally came to, clenched tightly in his remaining hand, was the rune that he had drawn right before his fall. The rune was Iwas.
He was. It looks sort of like a capital M, right? Or maybe two horses facing each other.
That's the one. And it symbolizes purposeful motion, partnership, specifically the journey of the spirit and the absolute necessity of a strong partnership between the body and the soul.
So it was the perfect symbol for what had just happened to him.
It perfectly summarized the imbalance. His spirit had gone on this incredible journey, but his physical body was nearly destroyed because he had failed to honor the physical realm and its dangers. He'd been out of balance.
That insight connects so well with the Hindu myth of Shiva and Parvati.
It really does. Shiva, the spiritual aspect, the destroyer and protector, he was so distraught after losing his first wife that he just retreated. He went to meditate with the masters on a mountaintop, completely ignoring the physical world.
And when the spiritual ignores the physical...
The world falls into chaos.
Yeah.
Exactly. Parvati, the physical aspect, was created specifically to lure him back, and she eventually strikes a deal with him. He could pursue all his spiritual knowledge, but he always had to return to spend time with her in the physical realm.
The lesson is balance.
It's always balance. You can't be totally consumed by the spiritual or the physical. Doing so destabilizes your entire reality.
So this quest, born from trauma and a near-death experience, this search for the missing pieces, it led him to develop what's called the meta-secret. And it was designed specifically to fix the problems with what most people know as the law of attraction.
Right. And it's important to say the law of attraction isn't wrong. It's valid, but it is deeply, deeply incomplete.
The analogy they use is perfect. It's the appetizer.
Exactly. It's the delicious appetizer at a grand banquet, but it is not the full, sustainable meal.
When people use just the law of attraction, they fall into a trap, don't they? They focus on manifesting things.
Material things, yeah.
Yeah.
Without understanding the underlying laws that make those manifestations actually stick or, more importantly, truly matter.
We've all heard it. People visualizing a new car or a check in the mail.
And Mel Gill notes that this is often just vastly undershooting your own potential. It's like Dr. Evil and Austin Powers asking for $1 million.
Right. When his operation is already making billions, he's thinking too small.
You miss the greater potential. You could be finding long-term peace, real happiness, profound alignment. But instead, you're just asking for a slightly better car.
So the meta secret is the operating system. It's what makes the Law of Attraction app actually run properly and consistently.
Yes.
Yeah.
It contains these 7 immutable Hermetic laws that have to work together in concert. Without knowing all 7, you're basically trying to lift a mountain with just one finger.
And that framework of 7 laws is what we're going to dive into right now. We're moving from that biographical anchor into the practical method that informs, well, everything.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's start with the cornerstone, the absolute foundation that all the other laws are built on. This is law number 1, the law of mentalism.
The core principle here is the all is mind. The universe is mental.
Which is a huge concept to wrap your head around.
It's the most empowering, but yeah, probably the most challenging law to fully grasp. The practical takeaway from it is simply anything is possible.
Why is this one so important to get first?
Because if you don't accept this truth, that everything originates as thought, then all the other laws that follow will just feel random. Disconnected, this is the linchpin.
Okay, so what's the best way to visualize this? How can you make the universe as mental feel real?
The best analogy is dreaming. When you're in a dream, you create an entire self-contained universe inside your own mind.
Right, with people, places, physics, gravity.
All of it. And in that moment, the reality of the dream feels completely absolute, doesn't it? But it's all just a creation of your consciousness.
And the argument is that this same mechanism is at work right now in our waking life.
Exactly. Your current reality is, at its most fundamental level, the crystallized result of thought. Both collective thought and your own personal thought.
The Bill Gates example and the source material is perfect for this.
It really is. Think about it. He had a singular thought back when he was at Harvard in the early 70s.
Every home and business should have a computer.
One thought, held by one man. But it was so clearly defined, so focused, that it manifested as Microsoft and fundamentally changed the entire structure of modern global reality.
It shows the raw power of a focused thought under this law. If you can truly conceive of it, it is possible.
Look at Star Trek tricorders. That was pure fiction, an idea in a writer's head. And now we have iPhones and other devices that do way more than a tricorder ever could. Our technology is always playing catch-up with our collective imagination.
The law of mentalism also forces us to deal with this idea of oneness. If the all is mine, then we are all inherently a part of that all.
Yes. Hermes argued that the only true constant in the universe is change. Therefore, the universe has to be constantly creating and changing. And because we are a part of it, we change the universe by creating within it.
You can see this interconnectedness most clearly during a disaster, can't you?
Oh, absolutely. Think about the massive global outpouring of aid after the 2004 Indonesian tsunami, or the incredible national unity in the U.S. right after 9/11.
In those moments, all the trivial differences just vanish.
They do. We drop our personal ego defenses, we forget the labels, and we connect to the shared energy of humanity. We realize that slogan from Barack Obama was literally true. We are one.
Which brings us to a crucial distinction this law makes. The difference between the ego and the true self.
Right. We're born with that sense of oneness. A baby doesn't see a separation between itself and its mother. But the process of growing up is the process of building an ego, a defined personality.
We start adopting labels. I am a successful doctor. I am an unhappy mother. I'm a skilled surfer.
And the ego starts to confuse the experience, the label, the personality, which is like the menu, with your actual identity, which is the meal.
So the true self is what's underneath all of that.
The true self is the pure essence of love, peace, and joy that existed before you started sticking labels on it. The ego is like a small flashlight, narrowly focused on I, me, mine, while the true self is this all-encompassing spotlight of interconnected consciousness.
So if the universe is mental, and we're part of it, the most powerful thing we can possibly do is gain control of our own mind. That's the application.
Precisely. Bob Proctor gives some really practical advice on this. He points out that stress isn't actually caused by the problem you're facing.
It's caused by your reaction to it.
It's caused by you surrendering your personal power to the problem.
So what's the exercise? How do you take that power back?
You physically visualize positive energy. He describes it as lavender light circulating through your body. And then you deliberately reclaim that power with an affirmation. You say to yourself, I am in control of me.
That's a huge shift. You're moving the source of power from the external circumstance back to where it belongs, inside you.
You choose stillness. You release the fight, you let go of the stress, and only then, in that completely relaxed, receptive state, does the solution, the creative thought, have the space to actually arrive.
So this isn't passive wishing, it's active mental management.
That's the meta-secret application of mentalism.
Exactly.
You have to assure your internal dialogue is reflecting the reality you want to create, not just replaying the problem you want to avoid.
Okay, so that's the internal mind. Moving from there to its external reflection, we get to the second foundational principle. Law number 2, the law of correspondence.
And this one is summarized very simply. As within, so without.
The principle of mirroring.
Yes, if you want to understand the large, you have to look at the small. There's a story about the author having a dream where an old man pricked his finger and said the code to the entire universe was inside that single drop of blood.
And this is before we had fully sequenced the human genome.
Decades before. But now we know that's literally true. DNA, the molecular code of life, contains the complete blueprint for an entire organism inside a microscopic structure. Correspondence was proven to be physically accurate.
It makes you think of what Carl Sagan said, that we are all star stuff.
Right. The elements that make up our bodies are the same elements forged in the cores of exploding stars. Everything is a reflection, a replica of everything else, and it all operates under the same basic laws.
And crucially, this law tells us that the rules that govern the physical plane are identical to the rules that govern the mental and spiritual planes.
The only difference is the speed of vibration, which we'll get to next. But the same cause and effect structure applies across every single level of existence.
So therefore, you are a mirror.
You are a mirror. Your current external reality, your relationships, your finances, your health, your opportunities, it is a precise one-to-one reflection of your inner state.
If you cultivate happiness and gratitude and self-worth on the inside,
You naturally attract people and situations that match that frequency. But the reverse is also painfully true. If your inner state is one of lack or resentment or pessimism, that is the energy you broadcast, and that is exactly what the world will reflect back to you.
there's a powerful story in our notes that illustrates this negative correspondence perfectly. It's about a wealthy but very miserly man.
Right. He was so consumed by his inner feeling of lack, even though he was rich, that he refused to share anything, not even a simple sweet dumpling with his own wife or servants.
This stinginess, this internal hoarding, it eventually attracts external judgment.
It has to. The god Saka disguises himself as the miser to teach him a lesson. And Saka, as the miser, starts acting as the epitome of generosity and kindness. And soon the whole village is praising the miser for his sudden change of heart.
So when the real miserable miser shows up and tries to claim his identity and stop everyone from raiding his treasure room, chaos ensues.
The king gets involved, and the wife is asked to identify her true husband, but based on his character, not his appearance.
This is the pivot point in the story. She asks a brilliant question.
Who is it better to be generous to your neighbors or yourself?
And Saka, the god, instantly replies, "It is best to be generous to all."
But the real miser, driven by his internal poverty, he just screams, "It is best to be generous to no one."
And with that, the wife points to Saka.
And the true miser loses everything. His wealth, his family, his home. And Saka reveals the lesson. When you treat the world poorly, it will treat you poorly. It's not just simple karma. It's the absolute mechanical functioning of correspondence. What you hold inside is what gets manifested outside.
This leads to a pretty radical realization about problems.
It does. The sources state it very clearly. Problems do not exist in the world.
Things simply are.
Things simply are. It's our reaction and our perception of the thing that creates the problem. The universe just gives you the data, your internal framework, your beliefs, your within. That's what processes the data and creates the problem state.
An optimist and a pessimist can look at the exact same situation.
And have completely different outcomes because their internal belief systems are different. If you're constantly focused on, say, your broken TV, that negative thought process is filling the mental space that you should be using to come up with a creative, positive plan for getting a new one.
That's the meta-secret application of correspondence.
That's it. Change the within, and the without has no choice but to change with it.
Okay, so we've established that the universe is mind and that reality reflects our mind. Now we get to the how. How does mind translate into the material world?
This brings us to law number 3, the law of vibration. You might know it as good vibrations. The core principle is nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates.
And what's so amazing about this is the scientific accuracy. This law was written down millennia ago.
Long before atomic physics came along and proved it was absolutely correct. We now know that everything, atoms, protons, neutrons, is in constant motion. Solidity is just an illusion based on how fast something is vibrating.
And there's a profound connection to the human system itself.
A direct connection. Modern science has confirmed that the Earth's core vibrates at about 7.8 cycles per second. And guess what?
That's the same frequency as a healthy human body.
The exact same frequency.
Yeah.
We are literally tuned to the rhythm of our planet.
So just like atoms vibrate, our thoughts and our emotions also have a vibration.
Yes, and this is the actual mechanism that turns thought into reality. Emotions like anger, fear, resentment, they vibrate at a much slower, denser, lower frequency.
Well, happiness, peace, love.
They vibrate rapidly at a very high frequency. And this difference in speed is technically the only thing that separates the planes of existence. The physical plane is just energy vibrating very slowly. The mental plane is faster, and the spiritual plane is the fastest of all.
It's all just energy at different speeds.
That's all it is. And these vibrations attract similar frequencies. That's the core of the law of attraction. But crucially, this vibrational energy can be transferred from one person to another. It's a process called induction.
Induction, the transfer of feeling.
Right. This explains so much about how we behave in groups. On the positive side, it's how figures like Gandhi or Martin Luther King Jr. could, through their own sheer internal conviction and high vibrational state, inspire millions of people to nonviolent positive action.
They induced a higher frequency in their followers.
And conversely, it explains negative effects, like the bystander effect, where individuals in a crowd all fail to act during an emergency.
Just because they're all taking cues from each other.
They're taking negative behavioral cues from each other's emotional vibrations. It's a collective, low-frequency transfer of fear and confusion and inertia.
We should also talk about the actual physical impact of vibration, especially from words. I'm thinking of Dr. Masaru Emoto's work with water crystals.
It's a perfect example. Since our bodies are mostly water, Emoto's work is incredibly relevant. He'd expose samples of water to high vibration words, like love or thank you.
And the frozen crystals that formed were beautiful, symmetrical, complex.
Exactly. But when he exposed the water to low vibration words like hate or you fool, the crystals were chaotic, ugly, asymmetrical structures. They looked broken.
The insight there is pretty startling. Words, which are just crystallized thought, have a direct physical impact on our internal structure because we're basically walking bags of water.
High vibration words literally lift us up. Negative words degrade our internal coherence on a cellular level.
So for practical use, how do you apply this? How do you raise your vibration?
Well, first, the law says distance doesn't matter. Frequency overrides space, just like a radio wave. The challenge for an individual is that you can't just jump from deep sadness to ecstatic joy. That leap is too big.
The secret is to do it incrementally.
Exactly. If you're feeling sad or grieving, your first goal isn't to be happy. It's just to feel a little bit better. Maybe you aim for neutral or contemplation. Then from there, you can move to hope, and then eventually to happiness. You do it in steps with focused thought.
And music is a great tool for this, right? A kind of emotional transporter.
One of the most powerful and fastest. Because musical vibrations are specifically calibrated to match emotional states. It's why a national anthem can make a whole stadium of people feel pride instantly.
You mentioned a fascinating detail about the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages regulating music. Why would they ban certain chords?
Because they understood, maybe intuitively, the power of frequency. Certain minor chords and low frequencies were seen as carrying vibrations that could induce dangerous states gloom, irrationality, maybe even madness.
Wow.
They wanted to maintain a high, controlled vibrational environment in their services. They even banned a specific interval, the augmented fourth, and called it the diabolus in musica.
The devil in music.
The devil in music. It's an ancient, profound example of understanding and trying to control vibration.
That's incredible. Okay, so from the constant motion of vibration, we move to the contrast that's required for existence to even happen. This is law number 4, the law of polarity.
The principle here is that all things are dual. Everything has an opposite.
But crucially, the law adds that these opposites are actually identical in nature, only different in degree.
Yes, they aren't separate things. They're just the two extremes of the same continuum.
The thermometer analogy is the perfect way to understand this.
It is. Cold and heat are not two separate phenomena. They are two opposite points on the single pole of temperature. You're just measuring a difference in the degree of thermal energy.
So love and hate aren't separate either.
They're both degrees of the same energetic emotion. One is just a very high vibration of that emotion, and the other is a very low vibration.
This idea of duality is ancient. It's embodied in the yin and yang symbol.
Perfectly. It shows that opposites, black and white, masculine and feminine energy, light and dark, they work in this perpetual, necessary harmony to create a stable, evolving reality.
And the little dot of the opposite color in each half.
That reminds us of the law of mentalism. There's always a seed of oneness, a core connection, even within the duality.
And if you try to fight this natural duality, the results are, well, not good.
They're destructive. The African fable of the greedy hyena is the big warning sign here. Don't work against polarity.
The hyena tried to walk down two separate paths at the same time.
He was trying to get to two different goat herds at once to maximize his gain. But as the paths naturally diverged, he was just torn clean in two. You cannot successfully pursue two mutually exclusive polarities at once. It will tear you apart.
So what's the power in this law? How do you use it?
The comfort and the power is knowing that the positive pole is inherently of a higher degree, and it will readily dominate the negatives. This gives us the mechanism for transmutation.
Meaning we can change any negative situation.
We can. First, by accepting it. Because acceptance is the direct opposite of resistance. If you resist something, you're locked into its low vibration.
So acceptance is the key that unlocks the pole.
It is. Once you've accepted it, you can use nature's tendency toward the dominant positive pole. You incrementally shift your thought to a slightly better degree, transmuting the quality of the energy. You turn fear into courage or hate into compassion by consciously moving up the scale.
There's that classic urban legend, usually attributed to Einstein, that illustrates this perfectly.
The student and the professor.
Right.
The professor tries to trap the student by saying that if God created everything, then God must have created evil, which means God must be evil.
And the student turns it around by asking about cold.
He asks if cold exists. The professor says, of course it does. But the student uses physics to explain that cold is just the absolute absence of heat. It doesn't exist as its own entity.
And the final mic drop moment.
Evil is the same as cold. Evil doesn't exist by itself. It is simply a term we use when we feel the absence of God's love or light. It's a perfect illustration. Negative poles, cold, darkness, evil, are just the absence of the dominant positive pole.
So we have the choice right now to adjust the degree of polarity we want to live at.
And start working our way up the pole toward it.
We've covered the mental foundation, the energy, the duality. Now we have to talk about how creation actually unfolds over time. That starts with law number 5. The law of rhythm.
This one dictates that everything operates in cycles. Advance and retreat, action and reaction, rising and sinking. It's the source of sayings like, go with the flow, or to everything there is a season.
This law basically tells us that trying to move in a constant straight upward line is unnatural.
Totally unnatural. Nature is cyclical. The tides ebb and flow, the seasons change, empires rise, and then they fall. It's all rhythm.
And our own bodies are a perfect example. You mentioned Mickey Hart, the Grateful Dead drummer.
Yeah, he presented to the U.S. Senate explaining how the human body is a multidimensional rhythm machine. Our heart, our lungs, our brain waves, they all pulse in this intricate synchrony.
And culturally, we've harnessed this through things like shamanic drumming.
One of the oldest forms of healing. They use repetitive, specific rhythms to tune the body, to subtly change your neural oscillations and shift your consciousness by aligning your personal rhythm with a universal one.
The crucial psychological lesson from this law is about accepting the emotional pendulum.
Yes, you have to expect emotional highs and lows. They are temporary and they are cyclical. The goal isn't to eliminate the lows, but to avoid being a slave to them.
This is where the Hermetists developed the practice of neutralization.
Right. When that emotional pendulum swings down into a negative state, the practitioner just allows the feeling to flow through them without letting their ego grab onto it and make it a permanent identity.
And if you fail to neutralize it,
you fall into these destructive spirals of resentment and reaction. The infamous feud between the Hatfields and McCoys is a classic example. It started with a dispute over a pig.
A pig.
And it escalated through uncontrolled negative reactions and a total lack of neutralization, leading to murder and chaos for 26 years. The smallest cause, if you don't neutralize the rhythm, can create catastrophic effects.
Neutralization is just about acknowledging the downswing, knowing the upswing is coming, and refusing to let a temporary negative state define your actions.
Exactly.
Now, there's another law that works hand in hand with rhythm to govern the timing of things. This is law number 6, the law of gender. This one seems crucial because it brings in the concept of gestation.
It's vital. And it's probably the most misunderstood of the 7 laws. Gender here is not just about biological sex, it's about creative forces.
The masculine and feminine principles.
The masculine principle is the dynamic, initiating, conceptual, outward projecting force. The feminine principle is the receptive, incubating, magnetic, internalizing force.
And both are present in every person and every creative act.
Yes, so if the law of attraction is you having an idea, that's the masculine initiation of the thought, the law of gender says that thought now requires a necessary period of feminine incubation, or gestation, before it can become a physical reality.
This is why we have to trust the timing.
You have to. All thought needs time to incubate. You can't plant an acorn and demand a full-grown oak tree the next morning. There's a Haitian saying, "Piti piti, wazo finish, little by little, the bird builds its nest."
This speaks directly to the impatience of our modern world. We want everything now.
And if an entrepreneur keeps checking the oven every 5 minutes, they're going to cheat the bread of its necessary gestation time. It won't rise.
The example of Daniel LaRusso and the Karate Kid is perfect here.
It is. He thought Mr. Miyagi was just using him for chores. Wax on, wax off, sand the floor. He had no idea Miyagi was initiating the foundational moves in his subconscious, letting them incubate naturally over time.
Miyagi was working with the law of gender.
He knew that true skill required patience and persistence. You have to cultivate faith in the unseen process.
So the application is twofold. First, you have to be the masculine principle and actually initiate the thought or the goal.
And second, you have to step back and trust the feminine principle to handle the gestation and the timing. You have to stay positive and align with the flow, not swim frantically against the current.
There's an Aboriginal story about the Eelaman that illustrates this perfectly.
A great story. After thieves stole the last of their water supply, the people didn't panic or fight against their reality. They stayed positive and just focused on following the tiny droplets that had leaked from the stolen container.
And because they went with the flow and kept a high vibrational state,
The Law of Correspondence kicked in. Abundant billabongs and water holes sprang up wherever the stolen water had dripped. They got back far more than they had lost.
it shows that trusting the flow and staying positive can yield surprising, abundant results once that gestation time is complete.
Always.
Okay, finally, we reach the principle that ties all the others together and makes the whole system accountable. Law number 7, the law of cause and effect.
This one assures us that nothing happens by chance. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Every effect has a preceding cause.
And this kind of processing is just built into us as humans.
It's innate.
Yeah.
Scientists even think dreaming is a key way our brain reviews past actions to prepare for future consequences. And think about small children, always asking why?
They're trying to map the cause and effect structure of the world.
Exactly. The philosophical concept of karma, which literally just means to act or do a deed, is built entirely on this law. It is the impersonal force of gravity. You reap what you sow.
And it is completely neutral. The law isn't judging you.
Not at all. It acts without bias or malice. The fall in the jungle, as catastrophic as it was the effect of multiple causes: the terrain, fatigue, poor footing. It wasn't because gravity had it in for him.
The real power of this law is in understanding that our most profound causes are our beliefs.
Absolutely. Think about Feng Shui. It's all about how physical arrangements affect energy flow. But the underlying belief structure is the real cause.
For instance, if you hold the deep belief that money is the root of all evil,
That belief is a powerful cause. The necessary effect is that you will subconsciously avoid money. You won't apply for that high-paying job. You'll feel guilty accepting gifts. You'll find ways to push wealth away because your core belief is actively generating the negative effect you claim you don't want.
so this all comes back to personal responsibility.
It has to. Blaming external factors, your boss, the economy, the weather, is pointless. The law operates anyway. If you want a different effect, you have to change the cause. And the primary cause is your thoughts, words, and actions.
The Suriname fable of the snake and the wise woman is the perfect final lesson on this.
A great cautionary tale. A young man rescues a snake from a burning hole, but the snake immediately tries to bite him, arguing that it's just its nature to return evil for kindness.
And the wise woman steps in, not to save the man, but to teach a lesson in accountability.
She tells the young man to put the snake back in the hole. She explains that the snake has to learn self-reliance and appreciate kindness on its own. If the snake chooses the cause of ingratitude, it will experience the effect of being trapped.
Nothing happens by chance. Every event is there for a reason, for growth.
And if you are experiencing negative effects, the only way to fundamentally change your destiny is to become a master of the causes you set into motion, starting with the control of your own mind.
The simplest place to begin is just to notice your thoughts. If thoughts are causes, you have to monitor them. Encourage the good ones and just let the negative ones pass by like clouds without grabbing onto them.
That's the first step to mastery.
This has been a really extensive deep dive into these invisible architects, the 7 Hermetic laws. We've gone from the mental creation of reality through the energy of vibration and polarity to the timing of rhythm and gender, and finally to the accountability of cause and effect.
We've really shifted the focus, I think. The meta-secret isn't just about wishing for things. It's a complex system built on alignment and consistent action across all 7 of these laws. You can now see why the law of attraction is just one small piece of a much larger interconnected operating system.
The real power only begins when we stop being passive passengers in our lives and start actively living these principles every day. It's about moving from just knowing about them intellectually to actually implementing them.
And the author of our sources, Mel Gill, had a profound moment with this. He finally returned to that same grotto where his whole journey began, and he symbolically tossed that Awa's rune, his physical reminder of the journey, into the darkness.
He let it go.
He let it go. That act marked the final release of the past trauma. It crystallized the paradox of power. By letting go, we gain the power to truly create the lives we were born to live. Because the power was always inside him, not in some external object.
So as you finish listening to this deep dive and you're thinking about these 7 powerful principles, we want you to ask yourself this. What is the one symbolic thing that you need to let go of?
What old belief or resentment or fear do you need to release in order to align your inner architecture and start living the best days of your life?
And remember that final provocative truth from the source material. It ties all the way back to mentalism and correspondence. You don't need to search outside yourself for validation or for some kind of salvation.
Sometimes you are the gift. And if you're someone who's already familiar with, say, the law of attraction, you know that feeling, that aha moment when you realize your thoughts are actually creating your reality.
But that, as our sources point out, is really just the appetizer.
Right.
Today, we're sitting down for the full feast. We're exploring the deeper, interconnected universal laws. I mean, this is the true architecture of creation. And it explains how to intentionally manifest not just generalized success, but specific, sustained wealth, love, health, and happiness.
Okay, so we're moving past the wish upon a star phase. This is more like implementation science. We're looking at the engine behind all of this transformation. So what is this architecture built on? And maybe more importantly, why do so many, high-achieving, very practical people have such a hard time accepting this metaphysical foundation?
Well, I think that struggle exists because the whole foundation is rooted in what's often called metaphysical science, or, to put it more simply, the study of the invisible.
Invisible. Yeah, that's a tough sell in a world that's obsessed with metrics and, visible effort.
It is. But the principle is crystal clear. If you want to change the result, you have to change the root cause. As this wisdom tradition says, anything you want to change must be changed on the inside first.
Right.
Trying to change the outer world, your job, your relationship status, your bank account, without changing your inner world is just, it's fundamentally ineffective.
It's like trying to put makeup on your mirror to change how you look.
That's the perfect analogy. It's exactly like that. The reflection is just correspondence. The real change has to happen to the original object, which of course is you.
So that makes the internal work completely non-negotiable. Okay, let's define the specific toolkit that the Meta-Secret offers. It's built on the ancient wisdom of the 7 Hermetic laws. But let's not just list them. Let's, quickly anchor ourselves in what 1 or 2 of them practically mean.
Great idea. So the 7 laws are mentalism, correspondence, polarity, cause and effect, gender, vibration, and rhythm. Let's look at two key ones for our purposes today.
Okay.
First, mentalism. This law states that the all is mind, the universe is mental.
Meaning everything was a thought first.
Precisely. Every single thing that exists was first a thought, a mental concept. Your house, your car, even this deep dive we're doing right now, it all started in someone's mind. So the practical takeaway is, well, since the universe is mental, you have this profound ability to use your own mind to shape and control your experiences. Your mind is the ultimate projector.
So if the universe is mental, our thoughts aren't just some background noise. They're actually the primary constructive force.
That's it, exactly. And the second key law to really get today is polarity. It says everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. And then it says like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree.
Which means wealth and poverty aren't really separate things. They're just two ends of the same scale.
Exactly. Happiness and sadness, it's all the same emotional energy, just vibrating at different speeds or densities. The practical application of this law of polarity is that you don't have to make this massive jump from one extreme to the other.
Right.
If you're feeling sad, you don't instantly try to force yourself to be ecstatic. You move slightly up the scale toward contentment, knowing that you're moving toward the positive pole. And this knowledge, it gifts us with freedom and power. It connects us to what the source calls source energy, which allows us to rise beyond our limitations.
So if we align ourselves internally with these laws and we start moving toward that positive pole, what's the visible, undeniable result in our lives?
Why?
It sounds like it would be flow, or what the source calls synchronicity.
Synchronicity is the natural consequence of that alignment. It's what happens when the inner world and the outer world finally line up, when they correspond.
I see.
Carl Jung defined it as, two or more events that are causally unrelated, but they occur together in a deeply meaningful way. But what the universal laws prove is that nothing is by chance. There is always a link, a deep, invisible connection working behind the scenes.
Yeah, that moment when you're thinking about someone you haven't seen in 10 years and then your phone buzzes and it's them.
Right.
Or you just stumble upon the exact business contact you were just saying you needed. It feels like the universe is responding to your vibration.
It is. It's the universe showing you the mechanics of the law of correspondence in real time. And the key to accessing that flow, that synchronicity, is learning how to quiet yourself enough to listen to the rhythms of the universe.
And that alignment comes through daily practice.
Daily application, often described through 21 specific sublaws. Things like charity, compassion, dedication, patience, forgiveness, and self-love. These aren't just abstract ideas, they're the daily actionable beliefs that bring us into tune.
Okay, so if these positive actions are the laws, what stops us? What stops us from being in flow all the time? If we know how to vibrate positively, what's the internal debris that's blocking the signal?
That would be our unexamined thinking patterns. And this is maybe the most critical section for anyone listening, because the Meta-Secret identifies what it calls the 12 beliefs that will cause problems.
Okay.
These are the internal, often subconscious programs that actively become our undoing. They sabotage our synchronicity and attract negative experiences. We have to identify these so we can disarm them.
Let's dive deep into those. Why is each one so destructive?
Okay, the first one is just, it's pervasive in modern culture. Everybody must love me. This constant crippling need for approval from others.
Yeah.
And the destruction here is, well, it's twofold. One, it's completely illogical. I mean, we don't even like everyone we meet, so expecting universal approval is a ridiculous standard to set for yourself.
Right.
And two, this need focuses on external validation. It puts the source of your happiness outside of yourself, which completely violates the law of mentalism.
So if your self-worth is constantly dependent on likes or shares or approval from your boss, you're basically vibrating from a place of lack of approval.
Precisely. And the law of attraction will just bring you more situations that make you feel inadequate or disapproved of. You stop living authentically and you start performing for others. The solution is just realizing you don't need everyone else's love as long as you love and approve of yourself.
Okay, so what's number two?
The second is tied so heavily to burnout culture. I must be good at everything. This ties your self-worth to perfection and performance. We somehow get this idea that we need to excel flawlessly to have any value. But this concentration, it focuses you entirely on the fear of failure, which just inhibits your growth.
That fear of imperfection. It really is just a sophisticated form of procrastination, isn't it? We put off starting something because we know the first try won't be perfect.
It is. It absolutely is. The Meta-Secret teaches that we need to give ourselves permission to fail so we can learn and grow from mistakes. If you're kept from even attempting to excel because the fear of failure is too great, you're avoiding the very action necessary for manifestation. You are perfect as you are right now, but your actions can always improve.
Okay, what's the third one? This one sounds intense.
It is. The third is a moral and vibrational trap. Some people are bad, they must be punished. This belief violates the law of polarity.
How so?
Well, since everything is on a spectrum, there's no true, absolute good and bad, just degrees of difference. When you harbor judgment or this need for vengeance, you are vibrating at a very low, heavy frequency.
And focusing on punishing someone else just throws you completely out of alignment.
Completely. We only control ourselves. We have to choose to either adjust our own beliefs or simply walk away from destructive situations. But consuming yourself with the desire for someone else's punishment just traps you in their negative vibration.
Makes sense. Okay, number 4.
Number 4, things should be different. This is lamenting the past or fighting the present reality. It's the lamentation habit.
Oh, we spend so much mental energy arguing with reality.
So much wasted energy. Lamenting is useless because we only live in the moment. Our only job is personal responsibility for our own life and actions right now. Getting upset about the current situation will do almost nothing to change it. But accepting the situation as it is right now allows you to mobilize your mental energy to plan for a successful change in the future. Acceptance has to precede change.
Okay, the 5th one feels like maybe the biggest power drain of all.
I'd agree. It's your fault I feel this way. This is the belief that external events or other people control your internal emotional state.
And this is truly giving away your power. It makes you a victim of your circumstances.
Totally. No one can make you feel anything. Your feelings are your reaction to an outside event. And that reaction is controlled by your internal programming or your ego. The healthy process is to recognize the feeling, allow it to flow through you, and then ask your inner guidance system why you felt that, what internal belief was violated. Then you consciously choose to let the feeling go, and you take constructive steps to restore your balance.
So simple, but so hard to do in the moment. Okay, number 6.
The 6th belief is the classic happiness zapper. Worry. I know something bad will happen soon. Just constantly worrying about the future.
Worry is a form of negative mental reversal, isn't it?
It is. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy in this context. It's a profound waste of energy. And through the law of attraction, focusing on negative expectations may actually draw that negative event to you.
Yeah.
The source emphasizes that the vast majority of life is actually lived in a state of awkness. You know, you're clean, you're dry, you're well-fed, you're safe. We need to focus on that stable, positive baseline instead of constantly catastrophizing the future.
Right. And number 7 is just avoidance.
It's easier not to even try. Pure defeatism. This is a fundamental refusal to engage with the law of cause and effect.
It sounds like the belief that if you don't take any action, you can't possibly fail, so you stay safe in your little bubble.
But success requires responsibility, and that includes perseverance. The overwhelming characteristic of successful people, whether you look at historical figures like Henry Ford or Alexander Graham Bell, it isn't genius. It's perseverance, especially through the tough times. Avoiding difficult tasks means you're also avoiding the reward and responsibility that comes with achieving a goal.
Okay, what's next? The dependency trap.
That's a good way to put it. I need someone stronger than me. This is that external search for security.
We externalize our competence. We assume we don't have the internal capacity to handle our own lives.
And the meta-seeker just asserts that everything we need is already inside us because the universe is one, and we are connected to that source. I mean, sure, you might need physical help. If you need to move a sofa, you call a friend, but you still have the capacity to ask or to devise a new solution. We have to cultivate the internal belief that we are completely capable of taking care of ourselves and making our own decisions.
The 9th belief seems like it would stop growth dead in its tracks.
It does. I can't help being this way. This is the idea that our past determines our current behavior. It's a form of fatalism.
Yeah, that your personality is set in stone because of something that happened in childhood or some ingrained habit.
And it's just false. Every single day is a new opportunity to change for the better. We have to break out of these mental prisons of self-imposed impossibilities. The law of mentalism means we can choose a new thought and therefore a new path instantly.
Number 10 focuses on other people's drama.
I should get upset about your problems.
The trap of codependency. We absorb the negativity of others as if it were our own.
Getting emotionally consumed or upset about others' issues just hinders your own ability to help. You're lowering your own vibrational state for no reason. We should strive to be objective and helpful, offering solutions or support without getting consumed by their drama, which would only draw more negativity to us both.
What about number 11?
The pursuit of unattainable perfection. I must be perfect.
And there it is again. It links right back to procrastination. It's the enemy of the good, and it often paralyzes us from even starting.
It's so often procrastination in disguise. It inhibits the essential process of growth and learning. We have to accept the perfection in imperfection, realizing that the value of an action is in the act itself and the lessons you learn, not in some flawless result.
Okay, and finally, the 12th belief, the one that can really destroy relationships and careers.
I feel this way, so it must be true.
Emotional reasoning. If I feel angry, then someone must have wronged me. If I feel unworthy, then I must be unworthy.
And this is so dangerous, especially in relationships. For example, I don't feel in love right now, therefore I must not love this person. This is a fundamental error. Feelings are just data points. They are not objective truth. We must always seek external evidence to validate our internal emotional conclusions. If you've been married happily for 20 years but you feel a moment of doubt, that feeling is not evidence that the relationship is over. It's just data that needs further examination. It's not a conclusion.
So the big takeaway here is one of total acceptance and responsibility. We're perfect as we are, exactly where we're supposed to be, and we have the right tools to learn what we need to learn. Acceptance has to come before change.
That is the core realization. By identifying and disarming these 12 beliefs, we clean out all that internal debris, we raise our vibration, and we naturally usher in synchronicity.
Okay, so now that we know how to identify the internal debris that blocks our flow, how do we apply that new clarity to the specific goal of, let's say, wealth manifestation? We know wealth isn't just money, but it's abundance in all areas. But for most of us, money is the sticking point.
It is, absolutely. And we have to begin with an abundant thought form.
Yeah.
But right away, we hit the central paradox of manifestation. The meta secret to wealth is not to try too hard or to want it too much.
Okay, that is deeply counterintuitive. If I want $1 million, why shouldn't I focus intensely on wanting $1 million?
Because the simple act of wanting focuses your entire emotional being on the absence of it, the lack of the $1 million. When you say, I want money, what the universe hears vibrationally is, I don't have money. And by focusing on that lack, you're engaging in negative manifestation. The law of attraction will just bring you more situations that confirm that lack.
So the focus has to shift from the lack to the feeling of having it, of possession.
Precisely. The solution is to focus on what it will feel like to already have those things. You have to keep your emotions high on the wealth pole, remembering the law of polarity. And you have to act as if the desire is already fulfilled.
So it's visualization, present tense affirmations.
All of it. You have to become wealthy on the inside first. A wealthy attitude and a wealthy thought form will then manifest externally.
And this requires action. I mean, the word attraction has action built right into it.
That's the critical component. Manifesting wealth isn't just sitting on your couch wishing. As Jack Canfield explains, the process is ask, believe, and take action, and then receive. If you genuinely believe your actions are going to pay off, you'll take decisive action. Doing the things that produce wealth, whether that's networking or studying or starting a business, it's a non-negotiable part of the process.
For those of us who feel kind of trapped by incremental growth, the idea of a quantum leap is really attractive. But how do you actually execute a leap that feels, as the source is, utterly ridiculous at first?
This is where we look at Price Pritchard's U-square concept. Multiplying your potential by your potential to get exponential growth, not just additive growth. A quantum leap is a sudden fundamental shift, and it looks ridiculous because it requires you to violate the limitations that the masses accept. You have to start before you feel fully ready, defying the perceived limitations of the market or your current situation, and you have to release all thoughts of limitation.
Could you give us an illustration of that?
Pritchard's concept suggests that, say, if you're currently doing X amount of work and getting Y result, trying to do 10 times the work might seem impossible. But a quantum leap is about changing the underlying belief structure so that the same action produces 100 times the result.
You change the entire field you're playing on.
You do. For example, a leap might involve dropping 90% of your current clients, the ones who are low paying, to focus exclusively on creating massive value for the 10% who are your ideal clients. That looks terrifying and ridiculous, but it shifts your potential exponentially.
Wow, that takes a massive internal shift. Which brings us to the practical exercises. The very first step to materializing wealth, though. It's the simplest one.
Yeah,
Gratitude.
it is.
We hear about gratitude all the time, but what's the actual financial connection?
Well, studies in the U.S. have demonstrated that grateful people consistently earn more money and are significantly better at innovation. Gratitude isn't just about feeling good, it's about operating from an internal state of abundance right now.
Right.
By focusing on what you already have, you are vibrating high on the wealth pole, attracting more things to be grateful for.
And beyond that internal shift, you have to create external value.
Absolutely. Wealth becomes a foregone conclusion if you constantly think about expanding your service and creating a lot of value for a lot of people. By giving service that helps others improve their lives, you bring joy and service and products to them, and that wealth returns to you naturally under the law of cause and effect.
Let's discuss that powerful technique that kind of blends universal law with a practical plan. The ask, release, allow process. It's part action, part trust in synchronicity.
This is fantastic. You start by making a to-do list for whatever you're trying to manifest. And critically, you divide it into two parts. Half of the list is for self-action things you must do, like write that email or take that class. The other half is released to the universe. Those are the things you can't control or don't know the path to achieving yet.
You're essentially delegating to source energy.
Exactly. You ask the universe for the outcome, you release the attachment to how it will be solved, and then you allow yourself to accept it when it comes. And the source shares this brilliant anecdote to illustrate this kind of radical trust. The friend whose dented car was fixed by the universe.
Oh yeah, tell that story. It really drives the point home.
So this friend, who was a bit of a skeptic, she had her relatively new car sideswiped in a parking lot. The repair price was just under her deductible, and she was going to have to put off this really expensive fix. But she decided, skeptically, to treat it as an experiment. She literally said, if this law really works, then the universe will fix my car for me. And then she genuinely forgot about it. She trusted the release phase. She wasn't looking for a body shop, wasn't worrying about the deductible.
She just let it go.
A few weeks later, she's driving through a part of town she never visits, pulling into a random parking lot to meet a client. And these two men in a pickup truck who happen to own a local auto body shop, they flag her down.
No way.
They point to the dent and say, ma'am, we need to fix that car right now. And she was confused, obviously, but they insisted, saying they were just working nearby. And then one of them said, look, we're just being honest. The universe told me to fix your car for you.
He actually said that.
He did. And they fixed the dent perfectly for free right there in the parking lot.
That is synchronicity just completely overriding the physical law of cause and effect. The second she released the anxiety about the how, the universe delivered the what through this completely unexpected channel.
The key was that full and radical release. She asked, she released the outcome, and she allowed the miracle to come through an unplanned channel.
Okay, finally, on wealth, we need to master our affirmations.
Yeah.
Why are positive present tense statements so critical, especially when the brain seems to struggle with negatives?
It's a trick of the subconscious mind. We have to use positive statements because the brain can't actually conceive of a negative. If I tell you, do not think of a purple elephant, what's the first thing you visualize?
A purple elephant.
Right. The subconscious has to process the thing, the elephant, before it can try to process the instruction to negate it.
I see.
Therefore, affirmations must only use positive phrasing, focused on gaining. And second, they have to be in the present tense, as if the goal is already fulfilled. I am a magnet for money. All my investments are profitable. If you phrase it for the future, I will be wealthy. The goal is always postponed because the subconscious only registers that today you are not yet wealthy.
The ultimate meta secret to wealth seems to be act as if, move into alignment by appreciating what you have, and then get into disciplined action.
And release the outcome. That's the whole package.
Okay, let's move on to the realm of energizing health. Here, the laws of cause and effect, rhythm, and polarity seem immediately relevant. The body's described in the source as an amazing symphony with an original blueprint of perfect vibration.
That's right.
And when we introduce stress, negative emotions, poor physical care, we disrupt that blueprint, and that's what causes illness. The external stress manifests internally.
Exactly. But the mind, guided by the law of mentalism, has the power to instantaneously reverse these effects by changing the internal vibrational state. And the author shares a really powerful example of this, his own dramatic wake-up call involving a near-fatal heart attack scare.
Wow.
He was rushed to the hospital with crushing chest pains, a perfect convergence of the universal laws due to business and relationship stress he had been ignoring.
So lying there in the hospital, realizing The physical symptoms were just a correspondence of his internal emotional turmoil. What was the breakthrough?
He realized he had to consciously and immediately raise his health pole. He stopped focusing on the crushing symptoms, the lack of health, and began focusing intensely on the feeling of well-being. He actively recalled specific times when he was perfectly healthy and vibrant, and he practiced those specific emotions of gratitude and strength.
And what happened?
He said he experienced this intense energy washing over him, which he perceived as cleansing his veins and arteries.
And the physical result of that mental shift.
The next day, the cardiogram and all the test results came back perfectly clear. The symptoms had vanished. The doctors couldn't explain the instantaneous reversal.
Oh.
It shows that cause does not always have to precede effect. You can leapfrog the painful, lengthy physical process by fundamentally changing your internal state and vibration first.
That's staggering proof of the mind's power over matter. Another significant factor discussed in the book is the water element in our bodies.
Absolutely vital. Our bodies are about 85% water, and Dr. Masaru Emoto's revolutionary work demonstrated that thoughts create specific vibrations in this water. It has a memory, a structure.
Right.
So if positive thoughts create these beautiful, symmetrical, crystalline structures in a vial of water, just imagine the effect of constant negative self-talk, anxiety, or resentment on the water within your own cells.
Which brings us to the immense importance of forgiveness.
Yes, the connection between emotional baggage and chronic disease is profound. Resentment is literally carrying physical weight.
That's a powerful way to think about it.
The source mentions the anecdote of a cancer patient who experienced a complete documented cure after she chose to forgive everybody and everything in her life. Forgiveness isn't about being altruistic or saying the other person was right. It's purely self-serving. It's about letting go of the anger and resentment that keeps negative energy psychically stuck in your mind and body. Once that energy is released, the body can return to its original blueprint, allowing the law of attraction to bring in new love and healing blessings.
So true health is a complete holistic system. We have to honor the physical, but really prioritize the mental.
Balance is key. We have to honor the body by eating organic food, detoxifying. The source warns against all these pervasive, seemingly innocuous toxins like chemicals and dry cleaning and lipstick, and exercising, prioritizing sleep. But the most important tool is the mind. Mental exercise is just as critical as physical exercise. We know, for example, that meditation heightens activity in the left prefrontal cortex, which is the area associated with positive emotions and calmness.
Let's focus on those mental mastery exercises for health, starting with the critical check-in on our self-talk. How do we make sure our language isn't anchoring negativity to our identity?
We have to be really conscious of how we assign blame or identity when we make a mistake. Compare these 3 self-statements when you fumble in action. I am stupid, you are stupid, and that was stupid.
The difference in the vibrational energy is immediate. I am stupid feels heavy, like a permanent label.
I am stupid claims the stupidity as part of your core identity. You are stupid tries to put some distance there, but it still feels personal. But the most productive and the meta-secret recommendation is that was stupid.
You're placing the negative quality only on the action itself, not on the actor.
Exactly. You acknowledge the error without incorporating the negativity into your core identity. This prevents you from drawing that negative identity into your reality via the law of attraction. It lets you learn from the stupid action without becoming a stupid person.
Okay, what's another critical tool for health management?
Balancing immediate desire against future consequence. We call it present pleasure, future pain.
This sounds like managing cravings and poor habits. How do we use the law of mentalism to override that immediate gratification?
The technique uses mindfulness and visualization. Take overeating, for example. People who overeat or consume unhealthy foods often stay anchored only in the present pleasure of the food, the taste, the instant comfort, and they refuse to consider the future pain.
Right.
The first step is mindfulness. Never eat as a backdrop to something else. Savor the food, satisfy yourself. But if that isn't enough to stop the overconsumption, you have to consciously visualize the future pain before you give in to the craving.
You have to actively conjure the negative consequence.
Yes. Picture the feeling. The uncomfortable twinge in your stomach, the immediate lethargy, the sugar coma, or just the further distance from your long-term health goals. You have to spend a few seconds feeling that future pain intensely. This balances the present desire with the future consequence, and it often makes the choice to leave the cake on the plate much easier. The equation is no longer cake versus nothing, it's cake versus comfort and health.
And the final step for health is the consistent mental programming through affirmations.
We have to continually affirm health in the present tense. These are not wishes. They are commands that align the law of mentalism with the law of vibration. The classic example is, divine life now flows through every cell of my body, healing and energizing me. We have to treat these affirmations like a mantra to control the vibration of the body and align it with the universe's laws, reinforcing that original blueprint.
Moving on to love and relationships, this is where all the laws really seem to converge. The meta-secret says they require active work, like tending a garden. But relationships often expose two critical errors we make.
They do.
What are those major errors?
The first danger is unconsciously trying to control a loved one. We start to view them as an extension of us rather than a separate sovereign being. This happens because we make our happiness dependent on their actions. If they're happy, I'm happy. If they're late, I get angry. This violates that fundamental inner-outer principle. We're trying to control the mirror instead of ourselves.
We externalize our emotional regulation completely.
The second error is a lack of presence. We just stop being in the moment with our partner. We start multitasking during connection time, watching TV, checking the phone, reading. This sends a clear signal that the other person is less important than the distraction. The solution is simple. Treat your significant other as special and commit your full being to the connection every single time.
The ultimate starting point for successful relationships and the deepest insight here seems to be the relationship we have with ourselves.
Absolutely. The foundational relationship is with yourself. You have to treat yourself the way you would treat your dearest friend, with patience, support, and unconditional love. Loving yourself isn't conceit. It's a healthy, conscious awareness. The goal is to reach a state where you feel completely whole and self-sufficient.
Because if you feel whole, then that phrase, "I can't live without you," is suddenly a tragic and limiting statement, not a romantic one.
Exactly. When you realize you're seeking company outside yourself because you're fundamentally unhappy with your own company, you're looking in the wrong place. When you generate your own love and connection, the supply is never drained, and the law of attraction brings more complementary energy to you.
And regarding the exchange of love within a partnership,
The meta-secret is simple. Give the love you would love to receive. Love is the ultimate connector, the ultimate vibration. When you give love freely, you receive love, in turn, multiplied by the universe.
there's advice from Jay Abraham from his successful business coaching that applies perfectly here. The importance of slowing down and being externally focused.
He argues that in both business and love, the principle is identical. The more interested and externally focused you are on the other person, meaning the more effort you put into understanding their needs, their dreams, their problems, and committing your entire presence to them, the more extraordinary their experience will be.
And the more they'll naturally reciprocate.
Exactly. Because you're satisfying their core human need to be seen and understood.
What role does anger play in this process? It's often seen as purely destructive.
The book says anger is a gift. It's the body's way of saying something needs to be released or a boundary has been violated. If you view the relationship as a school for growth where you're learning to be more loving and giving, then anger just becomes feedback. It moves beyond being an exercise in trying to get someone else to please you. It forces you to look inward and ask, what internal expectation caused the pain?
Let's talk about the most powerful technique for handling conflict, even old conflict. Changing the internal movie. This is a way to review past conflicts with complete emotional detachment.
This is applied mentalism. First, you start a private screening where you observe yourself and the other person in the conflict. You're just an observer outside the emotions. You're detached. This allows you to ask, what was I really trying to achieve in that moment? And what advice would I give myself now?
So you become your own director and coach, watching the scene from a neutral perspective.
Precisely. And once you've determined the missing factor, maybe you needed to listen more or stand up for yourself earlier, you edit the mental movie. You imagine yourself reliving the incident, but acting differently, saying the right words, listening or walking away gracefully, and you see how the situation resolves successfully.
And the technique is all about repetition, isn't it?
Yes. You run that edited, successful version at least 3 times until the feeling of success is palpable. The 4th time, you step back into the picture, feeling the confidence of having practiced the successful response. You can't change the other person's behavior in your mental movie, but by fundamentally changing your own response, you prepare yourself for future success and make it very hard for them to react in the same old negative way.
There's another technique that focuses on avoiding misunderstandings by making our internal processes transparent to our partners. This is so crucial for conflict resolution.
It requires two key skills. First, make your thinking visible. Instead of just reacting, you start by describing your sensory experience. Here is what I saw, heard, and felt. So I thought this because. This makes your conclusion transparent to the other person. It shows them the logic chain that led to your reaction.
And the second skill is the reciprocal of that.
You have to find out the other person's assumptions by actively asking, what happened that brought you to that conclusion? I want to understand your process. You might still disagree on the facts, but you understand the issue and they're thinking much better, which short-circuits that destructive emotional reasoning.
And finally, the appreciation exercise, a simple daily ritual that applies the law of attraction by focusing attention positively.
This is just a commitment to seeing the good. For 10 minutes or less every day, you list 10 things you appreciate about a specific person, physical, emotional, or interactive qualities. You write down, I really appreciate that my spouse makes me laugh, or I appreciate the way my daughter focuses on her homework. By focusing your attention on the good in the relationship, you shift your own vibration toward the positive pole. And the law of attraction draws more positive interaction, making the person you're appreciating more likely to display those positive qualities in return.
Okay, on to our final big topic, finding true happiness. This is the ultimate destination, the state of alignment that relies on all the previous laws working together. So many people mistake happiness for just constant emotional highs.
They do. But the meta-secret defines happiness very differently. It's not an emotional high. It's a state of appreciation and peace, a feeling of connectedness where everything is okay. It's a profound state of balance, acceptance, and flow. The paradox is that true happiness is only available in the moment, yet we are perpetually focused on the past or the future, which robs us of the present joy.
And to maintain this balance, we have to internalize the concept of enough.
Wanting more than enough seems to be the engine of modern discontent.
It really does.
It absolutely sets us up for disappointment. We have to accept the rhythm of life. Sometimes things go our way, sometimes they don't, and find contentment in the present state. This ties directly into resilience. Resilient people understand that failure is not final, it's a lesson. They see even the worst situations as opportunities to learn.
The source illustrates this so well with that anecdote of the teacher who intentionally let the TV shoot fail.
Yes. She was filming a children's project and she deliberately introduced a major error in the final step. When the kids were devastated that the whole project was ruined, she taught them this powerful lesson. Adults make mistakes and failure is just data. You pick yourself up, you learn what went wrong, and you try again. That acceptance of imperfection is core to sustained happiness.
Let's talk about what actively stands in the way of joy, starting with resentment.
Holding on to anger and resentment is a major happiness sapper. As we discussed in the health section, forgiveness doesn't have to be altruistic or imply you are wrong. It's purely letting go of anger. If you hold on to anger, it keeps you vibrating low, attracting more negativity, and preventing that happiness pull from taking over.
And then there's the greatest psychic disease, worry.
Worry is the outgrowth of ignorance and doubt. It is completely fruitless. Worry has never made a situation better or stopped an unwanted event from happening. It's a waste of energy and a violation of the law of mentalism.
So how do we actively deal with this psychic disease using these principles?
We use a practical 4-step process. First, identify your worry trials and patterns. Is it a domino effect? Does it only happen late at night? Second, separate the perceived problem from the actual situation. If the brakes on your new car are working perfectly, worrying that they will fail is based on perception, not reality. Only address real, present concerns.
So we have to consciously redirect that tremendous mental energy we dedicate to worrying.
Exactly. Plan only if there is a real, present need for action. Otherwise, use your imagination to focus on best-case scenarios and positive outcomes. The source gives a brilliant reframing example. Imagine you're worried about your old car breaking down, preventing you from getting to work.
Okay.
Instead of imagining the accident or the repair bill, use your mental energy to imagine a positive outcome.
Like what?
Imagine the breakdown happens right near your house and you have to take the bus for the first time in years. And while you're on the bus, you meet a cute neighbor who asks you out. Or you read a book that sparks a brilliant new business idea. You are mentally rehearsing a positive solution and using the law of attraction to draw a favorable outcome, even from a potentially negative starting point.
So instead of brainstorming worst-case scenarios, we should be proactively rehearsing success.
Absolutely. Rehearsing success means catching yourself preparing for the worst and immediately replacing that thought with a best-case scenario. Formulate a desired outcome and replay this best-case scene internally until it feels real. You build the feeling of having the desired skill or outcome before it ever manifests physically.
This connects directly to the importance of having a clear image or goal, like creating a dream map or a directions assessment.
People without a controlling image in their mind have no direction. They are, as the source says, the plaything for everything that goes on around them, like a cork in the ocean. Creating a visual representation, a dream map, or a written one, a directions assessment of your goals for health, work, family at the start of the year, makes them concrete objectives that the law of certainty can then work toward.
And the goals have to be stated positively.
As with wealth, absolutely. Focus on gaining, not losing. Instead of, I want to lose weight, you use the law of mentalism to visualize. I want to feel and look better and more energized. Those with clear direction have no uncertainty, only, as the book says, good stuff coming, to cause the image in their mind to move into form.
Okay, so let's synthesize all of this. We've covered synchronicity, wealth, health, love, and happiness, all rooted in these invisible laws of the universe. The final chapter brings all the Hermetic laws back into focus as the practical summary for living the best days of our lives. Let's quickly run through how each law empowers you practically.
It's the integrated system that works, starting with mentalism. It reminds you that since the universe is mental, you have complete control over every aspect of your life through the power of your thoughts and dreams.
And then correspondence.
Correspondence teaches us that the inner reflects the outer. To achieve true fulfillment, you have to nourish all three planes, physical, mental, and spiritual, for that well-tuned orchestra effect. They have to work in concert for balance.
And maintaining that high vibrational state is key. Vibration.
Vibration emphasizes keeping your emotional frequency high through love, appreciation, and gratitude. Love is the ultimate connector to the AL. It raises your vibration above all the petty dramas of everyday life.
Next, using polarity to shift our awareness.
Polarity ensures we know that opposites are just degrees of the same thing. You can incrementally work from sadness to happiness just by shifting your awareness up that emotional pole, knowing the potential for joy is already there inside you.
And how do we prevent the emotional roller coaster that life inevitably brings? That's rhythm.
Rhythm requires detachment. Don't be a slave to the swinging emotional pendulum of highs and lows. Detach yourself, expect change, and know that a more favorable direction is always coming. By letting yourself go and just relaxing, you flow with the current of life.
And these essential balance of creation and action. Gender.
Gender helps you overcome self-doubt by balancing your masculine energy, willpower, action, doing with your feminine energy, receiving, creating, intuition. You have to practice giving and receiving daily. Too much of one drains your battery and creates imbalance.
Finally, using the higher laws to overcome everyday drama with cause and effect.
This is the ultimate freedom. Use the higher laws, positive thinking, high vibration, balanced gender, to overcome the lower laws of everyday drama. When you fill yourself up with the inner energy of these universal laws, you evolve beyond the petty dramas of life, and you stop creating negative outcomes.
The final and maybe most difficult lesson the Metasecret offers is that profound paradox that underpins all of this. Letting go.
We have to stop struggling and fighting the laws. We want so very much to be in control of the how, but the secret is to trust the paradox. By letting go of the need for control, we gain the ultimate power to truly create. The Metasecret is about becoming conscious of the moment and letting things flow. When you generate your own love and connection, the supply is never drained, and the law of attraction just brings more.
The final vow is to live the very best days of your life by operating in constant alignment with these principles. Because, as you said, the laws are never real until they are lived and experienced.
That is the critical takeaway. It is not enough to intellectually know the laws. They must be practiced daily to become your integrated reality. And remember, while you're seeking gifts in life from others, sometimes you are the gift, and your highest function is simply to be present and abundant.
Powerful perspective. Let me leave you with one final thought to explore. If happiness is fundamentally an inside job, and you have the power to choose to be happy right now, what specific external problem or past resentment are you currently using as an excuse to delay that choice?
That's an important question of responsibility. We encourage you to take one specific action today. Apply one of the practical exercises we discussed, like the 10-item appreciation list for someone important to you, or the success rehearsal for a situation you're currently worried about. Begin living the next level of your life immediately by taking that one conscious, aligned action.